Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Casey Calderman. Joined with me, as always, is my other co-host, Sam Len. Sam, how are you?
Doing great, Casey. Doing great.
I'm very excited for this. We got an awesome interview today. This one feels like it's for you and I almost years in the making because we talked about a previous work of this director that's going to be introduced here in a second. We talked about 10 Minutes to Midnight when that came out in 2020 during the strange times, the weird times, and I think both of us had that in our top 10 of the year. That was one of our favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so we are joined this time by the writer-director of not only 10 Minutes to Midnight, but he has a new film that is coming out here on the 19th of January. We have the one, the only, Erik Bloomquist. Erik, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Glad you like 10 Minutes to Midnight, too.
Oh, yeah. Big fans of that one. We got to talk to Caroline when that one was released, and it was super cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She's like a tornado, like the a good guy. I mean, I love it in the best way possible. Like put the tornado in my house, like that kind of tornado.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because of that movie. So like me and Sam, we run the SuperCon Film Festival in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we brought in Caroline as a guest to our convention last year because of how much fun we had with her doing the interview for 10 Minutes to Midnight. And so like this is almost like a full circle moment here.
He's so great with the crowd.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was 100% a crowd pleaser. We hosted a Q&A with her and she was just she was awesome. Just a ball of energy. So,
know what else is a ball of energy? The movie we're going to be talking about today, the movie we're here to talk about. It is Founders Day. Erik, this is kind of crazy because this is the second movie of yours that we've watched in the last 12 months, less than that. What's Founders Day about? And how did this movie, come to you in terms of the writing process? What was the origins of Founders Day for you?
Founders Day takes place in the small town cusp of its 300th anniversary Founders Day celebration, which is also the weekend before Election Tuesday, where there is a heated, contentious, vicious mayoral election happening between the incumbent Blair Gladwell and challenger Harold Faulkner. And one of the candidates' kids gets murdered early on, and it becomes a hot-button political issue about how to proceed and whether to cancel Founders Day and how it affects the election and how we're manipulating this tragedy for our own selfish gains, but done in a very fun, tongue-in-cheek, winky, weird kind of way. The origin is the first draft of the script was written over a decade ago, and it's just evolved as we've grown. We were, in our naivety and bright-eyed and bushy-tailedness, we're like, we could probably make this really soon, and it took 10 years and 7 other movies before we did. But I'm so glad it did because this is the right time and the right people and everything lined up, and it became what it became, and it's again evolved as we've grown, and the political backdrop has been a recent discovery, and it kind of made everything go together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 10 years ago, I don't know if this would have the potency that it does today in this era, which is really cool. How did you manage that? Like, because this movie is, like you said, very fun. Like, it is a very fun teen slasher, but it also deals with like some heavy political things that we're dealing with. Like, your opening scene is a gut punch. You know? And how did you balance like the political commentary and kind of the more heavy subjects with the fun side of making a teen slasher?
So ultimately, we very decidedly did not want to get in the weeds with specific policy points. I think that's another movie that we could make or others could make, and that would be great. But we wanted to make a movie about how people driven by ego manipulate a system in order to make themselves feel higher status or to give them what seems like higher status. So that's what the movie's about. the fact that these candidates and their followers are so similar in their approaches, for as diametrically opposed as they are, they're extremely similar in being very loud and using a lot of words, but ultimately saying nothing, and looking at how their histories kind of inform the way that they engage with each other and try to one up each other within systems of power. And putting it in the local sphere, I felt was really great, because it feels so much bigger because it's smaller, because there are so many stakes and baggage within the town that come into the local political sphere. It just makes it all the more potent and fun, and I think hopefully easy for folks to latch onto, because for as amplified as a lot of these characters are, they're rooted in a lot of people that I have encountered in local politics or in high school, and we're just kind of writing a love letter, but also a satirical note to them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That was a long answer,
Yeah,
but hopefully you can go mining for what you need in there.
Yeah, and for Sam and I, we're both from small towns, and I know this is a big talking point for both of us of how real this town feels. It's like we know everybody in this town, and also in terms of the movie, even if you've never grown up in a small town, if the town of the film feels lived in. What was it like building, a town basically from the ground up, and you have to create an entire political landscape inside that town as well?
We were fortunate that a lot of this, like, physical structures there were already in place, and some other pieces we wrote around, or we reset certain scenes depending on what we had. So that was really informative there, and it was as it appeared in a lot of ways, just 20 minutes from anything, and so a lot of support from residents who were also extras. So we got to explore corners of that town, and I got to get a pulse on things happening within the town that then kind of informed the way revisions were made, like on the day, or scenes were directed. So it was cool to actually be integrated into this community while we were making our own fictional world.
So when you're creating, this is the second slasher you've done, and I think in both of the past, well, the second slasher in 2 years that you've done, where you've created like a new icon essentially in the slasher genre. As far as the killer in this movie, the mask, the weapon, how did you go about designing that and finding the look? Because it's just, I mean, this is a cheesy thing to say, but it's a killer look. Like, it really is. It's so great.
In a lot of drafts of the script, it was dressed in all black with simple tactical accessories. We didn't want it to look like ripped off the shelves at Party City, but we didn't want it to look like it was, necessarily made by a really like high-tech stage costume department. So that was the line we wanted to draw. In terms of the mask, when we decided we wanted to skew Judge founding father look with it, which made a lot of sense. I had this idea that the mask could be like a theater mask, the comedy tragedy masks uncannily fused together. So if you look on one side, he's frowning. If you look on the other, he's smiling. So there's that weird uncanny expression on his face when you look at him from the front. And it plays into this idea with the comedy tragedy that this is political theater, and that there is a degree of performance in all of this too, as with, any killer wants to be noticed. Any kill is kind of performative in these movies for the most part. So there was that. The wig felt interesting to me, a good way to frame it and also complete it, as opposed to just the black hood. And then we were like, well, what could the weapon be? Because I love the hunting knife, and we could use that. But then we had this thought that, like, to complete it, and I have it, the gavel. I think
Oh my God.
yeah, it's so cool. The gavel that has this, and it,
yeah.
Which, at festivals, that was a very fun surprise for folks. And, I'm hoping that some people won't have seen that in the trailer when they go to see the movie. But that was the idea, that there is this specificity to it, but it's not gimmicky. Like, it's still like, this is useful. Like, this is still, it's not just a prop. Like, you could really do some damage with this. But this could realistically be made. I mean, it was for us. so that kind of completed the whole thing. And then when we got there in the days leading up, we did some tests and some adjustments and aged the wig, and we landed on that.
That's
So I have a
awesome.
follow-up question, not just based on the killer, but on the day that this movie is set around, Founders Day. How did you land on that being the day? Because something Sam and I talked about recently when we talked about another holiday slasher, Thanksgiving, from Eli Roth, of that town of Plymouth loves Thanksgiving more than anyone. The town in your film loves Founders Day of all days, and they celebrate it so much that it's all over their movie theater, schools, etc. What was it like? What was your process like landing on Founders Day, of the day that you're going to set this around?
To me, it was much more of like rooted in the town's traditions, and more like my town growing up, they would do an extravaganza, or they would do a waterfall festival. It was much more in that vein than an actual on the books calendar holiday. And I think someone told me they've seen a couple of comments or something where people are like, I don't even know what Founders Day is. And I'm like, well, it's not like Flag Day. It's like, it's like a college will have Founders Day, or a town will have Founders Day, or whatever. And that's what I want, something that felt like a festival that's important to the town, something that's really steeped in tradition and history. Because that's the way we do. I mean, anything that we do, we kind of have one foot in the past and one foot in today and the future. And so we wanted to have a town that felt that way too, where this tradition and the tenets on which the town was founded, and the tenets on which the town is kind of deviating from in the present day, were of paramount importance. And so making that happen and having it be in the afterglow of Halloween and also right before an election day, it just kind of was a really nice balance to find.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one of my first notes that I took during this movie was in regards to one of your actors that you've been working with, Adam Wepler. Is he a human chameleon? Because every movie you're in, like every movie you put him in, it takes me a second to realize it's him. Like what, I see frequent collaborators pop in and out of your movies. So what's the relationship like with your actors, and what's it like building that family, that stable that you keep coming back to?
We make a game out of it with Adam now at this point. Like, sometimes it turns into like, what do you want to look like this movie? And then we'll figure it out from there. And not in a arbitrary way, like, I mean, if it makes sense, or it can inspire what the character is, or we find a fit there, because I've been working with him for, gosh, like I met him 9 years ago now. Actually probably today, literally maybe today, we were shooting our first scene together. He was we did like a modern day tongue-in-cheek film noir set at a prep school and he was like a kid in the closet, like with all the test answers, like SIGs. So we've been working together since that, and in 10 Minutes to Midnight, like he had this idea that he could be a little bit more like the grunge radio guy. And then when we did She Came from the Woods, we liked the Kiefer Sutherland thing, and we're like, this is a great opportunity to bleach your hair. And then I think it's fun, I forget where we wanted him to be just like more like neutral, like good guy, ne'er-do-well kind of dude, like young dad kind of vibes, just to really contrast that. And I think both of us just really wanted him to have a dad stash. So we did that, and we built that out. But it is a fun game to be able to change looks like that as much as we can. And there are other folks that come and go from these movies that we try to do that with too. I mean, to the extent that I can from Woods, I tried to do it too, to go from my bright-eyed bushy-tailed to my bespeckled nerd.
Yep. Yeah, I noticed that too. And I love that you brought up the Kiefer Sutherland mullet, because the first time I watched She Came from the Woods, I'm like, that's gotta be Kiefer inspired. Like The Lost Boys is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like
it was, and the movie had come out, like we set that movie in 1987, and the movie had come out, I believe, that same summer. Yep. So of course he's gonna have like, and so it just, to me it made perfect sense. And that was really fun.
That's awesome.
One thing I love about all of your movies is where to cast people and what roles to put them in. The one that stood out to me the most is one, because I'm a Boy Meets World super fan. Two, he's incredible in this movie. William Russ. Talk about the casting process of him, and also how much influence of him being Corey Matthews' dad in Boy Meets World played into him also becoming like the Mr. Feeny of this town. What was it like working with him?
I mean, that show is formative. He's formative. I mean, I remember listening to the DVD commentaries when I was a kid, and they said on the commentaries that he's the ultimate like TV dad because he doesn't play it as a traditional sitcom dad. He just plays it as a dad. And I could never not see that after they said that. And it's so true. And he just is so grounded and good and cool. And I remember when we were talking about this role, my brother just sent, we were like, is it, what should we do? And he just sent me a picture of him. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. So we started those conversations and he really gravitated toward it. And I was so happy because even like, whether you're a Boy Meets World fan or whether you've seen him in, the incredible amount of things that he's done over his like 5-decade career, there's a familiarity there that even subconscious is, I think, within more people in this country than they realize that there's something about him. And for playing a character that is the history teacher that has had 4 decades of children or 5 decades of kids go through his classroom, and there's a just respect for him. I think the alignment there just made so much sense in the way that it made sense for Caroline Williams coming back to the DJ booth in 10 Minutes to Midnight. There's just something poetic about the whole thing. And he's such a lovely guy. He loved what we were doing. He loved the tone of this. He believes in us so much. And so, it was better than I could have even expected working with him because he was just and remains such a supporter and a cool guy. So it was a joy working with him. And I just think he slots in and grounds the proceedings in such a lovely way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, so like this movie goes pretty crazy. I mean, it's a teen slasher. We expect it to go pretty crazy. And
yeah, I just got lofty, but yes, it's a teen slasher. Blood will spill. Yes,
blood will spill. But you need a character like William Russ plays Mr. Jackson in it to almost really ground it. And he grounds the world completely because, like you said, we all had that teacher in high school where no matter if you left high school 10 years ago and you come back and you see him at the bar, you're still going to call him Mr. Jackson. You're not going to call him by his first name. He's always going to be that teacher to you. So you capture that.
That's what Adam Wepler and I think serve in this movie too, is that we are kind of the bridge between the high school ensemble and the adult ensemble, because we're the young adults who are still relatively recent in the grand scheme of things, graduates who are working in the town. And it just shows the respect and camaraderie and infrastructure that this town has, and how everybody knows each other or knows of each other and has an opinion about each other. And to me, that's just such a great way to build community and raise the stakes. And what I love about his character too, and I'm sorry for being so verbose, is that he, in terms of him grounding it, like he and our leading lady, Naomi playing Allison, are kind of the fulcrum over which some of these crazier characters, these more ego-leading characters, revolve and play. And that's the kind of world that they are trying to navigate through and keep their foothold in, this kind of decaying, fracturing town. And they're the sanest ones. So I think his casting is just really, really in support of that. And it allows, I think, some of the other actors to do some of these more scenery chewing, quirky things, because we're not hyper serious in this movie, but we're also not over the top like comedy with a capital C slasher. We're like there's a mystery with some absurd, silly satire that will like pop up in bursts every so often.
Yeah. So there are so many great kill sequences in this. My personal favorite is the one that happens in the movie theater. But how did you approach the kill sequences and the chase sequences? Because there are just some great cat and mouse type of chases in this. And I think that's the hallmark of any great slasher. How did you go about? Was it all in the script, or did you kind of utilize whatever locations you were given, or how did that work?
you always want more time and whatever, but I'm happy that translated too, because I love those sequences and I'm so proud of them. The movie theater kill was something we really wanted, and we had access to this space, and we kind of went there several months in advance. And we prevised the whole thing. I mean, I have photos of some of the big shots, like the shot for the big moment where the actual kill happens. We were playing with like lenses and interesting places to put the camera. So we had an idea of what that would look like. And then within the time and the resources that we have, we modify and adjust from there. But we did try to have an idea of how those would be blocked and shot as much as possible. But I love working with locations and building things around locations to like do things in blocking, whether it's a big action sequence or whether it's just a simple like walk and talk. I like to do things that could only be done in the space to really like, and this is going to be my actor training talking about like awaken the architecture. So to use what the space offers to motivate and inform the way characters are behaving in it, so that the scene would not play the same way if you were doing it something else. So that's whether it's a kill scene or just people talking about the weather, we want to use what we got.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So then I have a follow-up question. You play a role in this, and you're great. You're very, very low key, like super, like I don't know. Your facial reactions got me almost every time, but also like I know that person from a small town. What was it like, as an actor yourself, and then as a director for this, working with your actors on set, especially in this movie, like you said, where there's a couple different tones that you're balancing, where some of your actors are playing pretty big, and your two leads are playing very real. What was it like directing them?
Great. I think we were all on the same page. We all had conversations about tonality beforehand, and when I'm within a scene, I think I can set a tone with the way that I'm doing my performance, and obviously, like I'll adjust as I would if I were just an actor in a scene and not directing. If like an actor needs something or there are thoughts, I'm very, very collaborative, whether I'm in a scene or not. But I really liked the dynamic that I have with Amy, because there's this weird co-conspirator, kind of ugly closed door business that happens with us. And then there's our public personas. And then when there's this big kind of, Amy calls it her January 6th speech. And Shannon just does her fire and brimstone speech, get your pitchforks to the town. I have kind of set the tone for that scene, which again, similar, I would hope, similar to how like Naomi and Rusty and some others allow others to go crazy. It allows Amy to kind of be a firecracker for the rest of the scene. Not that she couldn't anyway, but you know what I mean? It sets the bar for what that is, and creates contrast too. But I liked being the dry, droll, guy who hopes to be mayor in 10 years.
Yeah. Your dread and anxiety in that scene that you're talking about sets the stage perfectly. Like, what's about to go down. And then when she just takes it and runs with it, it's great. Like, that's such a fantastic scene.
I think there's a thing, and it's not just me, it's other actors too. So much of how you perceive a character is based on how you see other people in the movie perceiving them. Mm-hmm. So I think that, and you kind of will draw opinions or mirror depending on how that's set up. So we had a lot of fun with that. And, we suited up again. Actually, recently we went to the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. last weekend, and they came in character, and we just did some man on the street interviews, and they did a live debate in character in front of the Capitol. And so I suited up again, and we kind of just walked around and ambushed people and just asked them about change and consistency. And it was the video is on Instagram if you want to watch it. It's very funny.
That's awesome. Is that going to be on the Blu-ray too?
I'm going to put it on the Bluray too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's rad. That's rad.
It's on Instagram with a bunch of other promos of them just going batshit crazy. So if you're looking for some fun stuff, it's at Founders Day movie.
Awesome.
One of my favorite character quirks that you have in this movie is the commissioner, who is just constantly eating candy throughout the movie. Was that something you guys wrote into the script, or was it something that Catherine just brought herself?
No, we had this idea. I thought it'd be funny if you're eating it in opportune times. And then she liked the Tootsie Pop because she wanted to do like a Kojak Columbo thing. And then it turned into like what other props can we have? What can it be? And then we brought props and the art department into it, and candy's easily resettable, so she always has a candy jar on her desk, and so she'll offer gumballs at an inopportune time, or just stuff like that. And I think that that's an example of a kind of quirk that we're not overplaying, like, look at me eating candy, but like but it's obviously silly and weird and strange. And that was very needlepoint, and she and I talked a lot about that too, but she really brought that to it. I don't know if I mentioned that originally was going to be a different type. We had originally written it to be more like a late 60s 70s Robert Forster type. And then Carson was like, it felt a little redundant with Jackson, even though the characters were different. It felt a little redundant with Jackson, the teacher. And Carson was like, what about Catherine Curtin, who we knew? And we were like, oh, that'd be sweet. So we didn't really change many of the lines, just a little bit to make it suit her. So but she just infused it with that color, and it made perfect sense. And I'm so happy it went that way, because it just really speaks to kind of our approach here.
That's so cool. Yeah, congrats on this cast of characters. Like, I feel like slashers live and die on how interesting their characters are, and you've just got a whole town populated with like the crazy teenage couple that can't stop scaring people in bad taste. And
I'm glad you like them. I love them.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. Like, and there were a few times that you set it up like a kill, and it's and all those times got me. Every single one. It was just yeah.
I love those guys. Like, I know, like, some people might be like, oh, they're over the top, but I'm like, as Carson would say, and I'm sure I'll say this somewhere else, but like, he's like, when we grew up, we knew people that we went to high school with whose sole personality traits were eating hot Cheetos and saying the word fuck. So like, that's kind of who those people are. And not even that amplified, but like maybe a little bit. And it's silly and dumb and good fun, but it again goes to this central tenet of the movie too, about like ego and jockeying for attention and the different ways that you do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, as soon as we started this conversation, when you talked about how you didn't really pick sides for of the political landscape of the two mayoral candidates of Gladwell and Faulkner, I was thinking, are they also, because you talk about the theatrics of them, is there a balance between the theatrics of them as an adult running for mayor and these two high schoolers that are making out and playing pranks the entire time they're in high school? It feels like there's always theatrics going on, no matter if you're a high schooler or as an adult.
Exactly. It's attention seeking within the infrastructure that you're in, and the ways it manipulates. And in some ways, like, Blair and Harold are both in Arrested Development and have never moved on from high school. They've never, and they're just still behaving this way, just a little bit more formal, just a little bit more with the suit and tie and the whatever, because they have to wear their adult costumes, but they're still, they're similar to those people too. And I think that, and again, it's this interesting balance, because in no way are we trying to get overly lofty with anything or like, look at how smart we are. But I'd also say that, like, not taking sides isn't us not saying anything as a movie. I think the point is that a lot of times people are not saying anything, and that's again, that's where the conflict in comedy comes with Founders Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's such a great balance in this. Like, even when there's a scene where the two candidates are in the office together, I was like, there's like some sexual tension going on between these characters.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
They hate each other. Yeah.
Kiss or kill. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so great.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you picked up on that, because that is very much the intention.
Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Somebody's going to end up on the desk. I don't know how, but somebody.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
All right. Sam, do you have any other questions? Otherwise, I got one final question to leave. Erik.
I was about to say, I mean, we're kind of coming up on our time, so I say we go with our final question.
Okay, I'm going to try to make this a fun one. Erik, if people are going to watch Founders Day, they're going to go either to the theater, watch it on streaming, buy the Blu-ray when that comes out. What would you, as the director, as the co-writer, what movie would you say they should follow it up with for a perfect double feature?
Oh, goodness. Oh, that's fun. Okay. do I want it to be a slasher or do I want it to be a perfect double feature? Do you guys have ideas? Do you guys have thoughts?
I have a few. Like there. I mean, honestly, I think this pairs really well with Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, which is another movie that I very much enjoyed. And also like political horror, any of the mostly like the election year and anarchy purge movies. Yeah.
Those are good. I don't know if it'd necessarily be a double feature, but I think that I didn't even realize it. I saw a re-release of Jaws last year after we shot it, and I was like, oh, the first acts are very similar.
Yeah. That's yeah. You've got the political campaign that's not willing to sacrifice the tradition of the town for, you know, the safety of pretty much everybody. Yeah.
You know what I would say? I'll give this. These you could shot in a lot of in the same town for parts of it. My Soul to Take was shot in the same town as Some of Us. Yeah.
You did not just drop that. I love that movie. I have championed that movie for years.
Yeah. So that might be a fun double feature because you might see some similar things. I was going to say My Soul to Take, and then someone said, and I was so happy they said this. I don't know if this is a deep cut right here. There's a movie from 2005 called Cry Wolf. That was probably my first. I don't know if that was before Scream that I saw that. That different stage, like different setting. But somebody came up to us. We were in Fright Fest in London, and somebody at the bar came up to me at like one in the morning. And was like, "I felt like Cry Wolf," and I was like, "Great, thank you. I love that movie."
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Yeah. Great movie. Yeah.
Big Cry Wolf, Purge Anarchy.
Yeah,
Cry Wolf. Yeah, Thanksgiving.
The slasher episode of Boy Meets World would be what I would follow.
Yes. Oh my God, that is so. And then there was Sean. It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good. We did a whole.
Casey, I think you win. But that's a cheat because it's an episode.
Yeah, I know. We did a whole episode on our podcast about that episode, so it's it's so good. It's so good.
Dr. Feeny's House of Terror. It's
dun dun dun.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
If you ever do that another watch through of that episode, bring me on. I'll talk about it with you again. I know you probably can't do it for a while, but let me know.
We could make it an annual Halloween tradition or something like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, before we let you go, again, where can people check out Founders Day? And then where can they follow you and everything you guys, you and your brother Carson are doing online?
Founders Day only in theaters, January 19th. Advanced screenings, January 18th. We'll have a website. I think it's going to be like foundersdaymovie.com going live on Monday where people can search by zip code. And then for a lot of the big updates at Founders Day Movie, at Mainframe Pictures, at Erik C. Bloomquist on Instagram.
Awesome. Erik, well, thank you again. This is awesome. Again, we cannot wait to see what you do next. So anytime you want to come on and chat about not only Boy Meets World, we can do that anytime, but anytime you want to talk about your next project, let's do it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erik.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.